What's up? I'm Nerd Jared, and today we are ranking Nightmare on Elm Street films. All of them. We're going to start with the original 6. We'll do New Nightmare, then, sadly, Freddy vs. Jason, and then we'll do the 2010 remake. So without further ado, let's get going. So as you can see before we get going, here is our tier ranking system. We have top shelf, pretty good, meh, which doesn't mean bad, it's just kind of there. Then we have not a fan, which is leaning towards the other end, and then we have, of course, trash. Now, does that mean I think it's trash? No, it's just the worst level, but it could be trash, and we'll find out when we get there. All right, first up on the list, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1, the one that started it all, paving the way for everything we basically know for Freddy Krueger. You have the great Heather Langenkamp playing Nancy, one of the greatest final girls in horror cinema of all time. Having said all that, is Nightmare 1 really top shelf? It's pretty darn good. I would put it in a category that is above pretty darn good and between top shelf, but alas, I did not make one of those categories, so I may start a fight with some people being problematic like this, but I'm going to put it in pretty good. And the main reason why, the characters are the focus of this movie, and I don't think the character development was really what it could have been. Yes, it's 1984. They didn't know if this was going to take off or not. Again, I'm not being overly critical, or am I? Comment below. It's almost top shelf, but I'm putting it in pretty good. Some iconic scenes, of course, from this are the glove in the bathtub scene, Tina's bloody body bag being dragged down the hallway, and then, of course, Tina's death scene where she's tossed around the room like a rag doll. All right, now we move on to Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, done in 1985. It's definitely not pretty good, but it wasn't a complete dumpster fire either. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 is kind of like Halloween 3, in the fact that the focus is not necessarily on the evil, to whereas Nightmare 1, the focus is Freddy in the dreams. Freddy's more possessing the character Jesse, and you really don't even see Freddy hardly until the end of the film. If Nightmare on Elm Street had stopped after Part 2, I might feel differently, but it didn't. I just felt like 2 was poorly executed. It's not consistent to the rest of the series, so it's meh. It's just meh. There are some iconic scenes, though, such as when Freddy pulls back his scalp to reveal his brain. Pretty cool practical effect. The other one, of course, is when Freddy comes out of Jesse at the end of the movie. Pretty gross, pretty iconic. Loved it, but the movie itself was just meh. Okay, now this is where I can tell that I'm going to make some people mad. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors from 1987. I feel differently about Dream Warriors now than I did the first time I saw it. I didn't like it the first time. Of course, I was 12. So that could be the difference. But when I watched it again, I think it's definitely pretty good as far as the concept goes. It certainly was a breath of fresh air after Part 2. Of course, we get Heather Langenkamp back as Nancy, and her dad comes back as well. And it also introduced a comedic element. This is which could have been the downfall of the series, but it introduces that Freddy comedic element that the first 2 films really did not have. Because in Parts 4, 5, and 6, that comedic element gets overused a lot. But for Dream Warriors, it was just right. And with everything else going together, again, Nancy's already established. You have these new characters all suffering from basically the same thing. And you had a lot better character development in Part 3 than you did in Part 1 with the characters. So for me, Dream Warriors, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 is top shelf. So that's where we're going to put it there. Great film. All right, now we get to the bottom half of the list. Up next is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master from 1988. So this is supposed to take place a year after Dream Warriors with most of the same characters starting off, but don't worry, they don't last long. Well, somehow, before all the Dream Kids die, they transfer their dream power to our new main character, Alice, played by the amazing Lisa Wilcox. Well, she brings her other friends into the dreams accidentally, and well, they don't make it. The final act isn't really great, and I feel like it was just thrown together. They basically defeat Freddy by making him reflect on his life choices. It's a little more complicated than that, but not much. Apparently that is so overwhelming that all the souls that he has taken just try to break free and finally start to escape, which led to a really cool scene. In reality, I'm a fan of all these movies and will be till the day that I die. But this goes into the not a fan category. Sorry. Iconic scenes in this one, of course, the waterbed kill. Pretty neat, where the lady's in the waterbed turns out to be Freddy. The bench press scene that turns into where the girl turns into the roach. I can't remember her character's name right now. Still grosses me out. Still to this day grosses me out. All of it. That whole scene. And of course, at the end, when all the souls are escaping Freddy. Such a cool scene. But yeah, not a fan. All right, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. Kind of in the same category as Part 4. They wanted to make another movie, but they really wasn't sure how they wanted to bring him back, so they picked the weirdest and most disgusting way that they could, using the original story of Freddy's mother, Amanda, who Freddy finds again in the dream world, and then she gets dream pregnant, I guess. And it's just a weird overall dynamic. Freddy is somehow inside of Alice's baby's character, but still able to manifest in the dreams, and then Freddy's mom is kind of there and the only one that can really stop him, but does she really get the best of him? We get Lisa Wilcox back as Alice, and honestly, she's the best thing that happens to parts 4 and 5, even if they are a bit hokey. Having said that though, not a fan. Even though I very much am a fan, it's just where this one goes. 4 and 5 just fall into the not a fan. Not too many iconic scenes in this one, except for the scary baby Freddy, which was kind of disgusting, but I liked it. This is going to really appear like I do not like Nightmare on Elm Street, which is so not the case. I'm being honest. I'm being honest. All right. Up next is Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare from 1991. And what can I say good about Freddy's Dead? I can say when I was younger that this was my favorite out of all of them, and I think it's because Freddy was actually funny in this one, which we've already agreed got overused a lot in 4, 5, and 6. So it doesn't make for a great horror movie, or really even a great movie, but at the time when I saw it for the first time, I loved this one. This movie was also kind of off the rails. It acted like a standalone because it had little to no references of any of the previous films or any situations that were in the previous films, and kind of embarked on an entire new journey that was difficult to follow and didn't really make sense, such as Freddy having a daughter, which has never been brought up before at all. For some reason, Maggie, the daughter, is the only one that can kill him. It was wonky, and I'm not a fan. So off it goes into the not a fan tier. Man, iconic scenes. I really don't remember any, except maybe the one that jumps out is when Spencer's character is in the video game, and it's like, be like me, be like me.
Be like me. Oh. Be like me. Be like me.
Now I know what you're thinking. Jared, you've been pretty harsh for 4, 5, and 6. Well, that's all right. The tides are going to turn because now we're at Wes Craven's New Nightmare from 1994, and this movie, in my opinion, is probably one of the best movies ever made. Not just horror movie, all the movies. It's definitely my favorite in the series for several reasons. First, I think the concept was incredible, and it really hadn't been, I don't think, done to that point. Very original. A movie basically taking place about a movie inside of a movie, where Freddy's not actually going after the kids of the parents who unalived him. Instead, he's after Nancy, once again played by Heather Langenkamp. Secondly, Freddy is back to dark from the original Nightmare 1 and 2. The previous 3 films, Freddy was almost too funny and not nearly scary. The darkness had disappeared, but with New Nightmare, the darkness returns. It appears that Freddy doesn't actually have a gloved hand in this film, that the knives look like they're actually coming out of his skin. I don't know if that was part of the reason they did that, or it's supposed to be a glove that just looks that way. Either way, pretty neat. And you also notice this is the only one where he has a thumb blade. Third, it's not a gory film. It doesn't have to be because the storytelling is so good. Yes, there's some blood, but it's the right amount. It's not overly done and just obnoxious like some films can be. Nothing too crazy death-wise as far as like some of the other Nightmare movies. It's just really well done start to finish. For me, this one is top shelf. 100% top shelf, and you can't change my mind. Iconic scenes in this one. You had a throwback to the tongue phone thing. Freddy's forked tongue at the end when Dylan stabs his tongue, and he kind of has that forked tongue thing going on. There were a lot of throwbacks in this one. The marshmallow stairs. So yeah, New Nightmare, top shelf. Oh, now for this one. Freddy vs. Jason from 2003. And I want to start off by saying, in 2003, when this came out, everybody wanted to see it. I wanted to see it. We all wanted to see it because we all wanted to love it. Because the last thing we got to set this up was Jason Goes to Hell in 1994. 94, 95, 93, one of those years. Where at the final scene, Freddy's hand comes up and drags Jason's mask down to hell, we presume. And when we went to see it in 2003, we completely loved it because we were young and stupid. Completely opposite from New Nightmare, this might be the most craptastic movie ever made. I think this movie was just a cash grab. They're like, how can we get these two together? Never mind anything that has to do with the story. Let's just get Freddy and Jason together and have them go at it. Like I said, it was a cash grab from two franchises that really needed a crossover, and this is what we got. And it sucked. Was it as bad as Jason X? I don't know. I haven't thought about that. Iconic scenes. None. None of them are iconic. Nothing about this movie is iconic. This movie is all we wanted. And yes, in 2003, we loved it because we were just like those camp counselors, young and stupid. I would pick Nightmare 2, 4, and 5 to win an Oscar before I even nominate this movie for an award. It's worse than trash. It's dumpster fire, but I don't have a category for dumpster fire, so it's just trash. But just know that me labeling this movie as trash is actually insulting to trash all over the globe. It's because it's so much worse than that. Freddy vs. Jason, into the trash you go. And finally, and not a moment too soon because I can feel your hatred burning towards me, we have A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake from 2010. This is a more sinister look at Freddy. In the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy is a child unaliver. He hooked up with the dream demons and had come back to punish the parents for what they did by murdering their children. They went darker in the remake. In the remake, Freddy is a groundskeeper at a preschool, and he is abusing the children in a Diddy kind of way. Now, also in the remake, there was no justice, like there was no technicality. The parents just took action on their own, and they set the sick pedo on fire, allegedly. However, the big difference in this one is that Freddy comes back to punish the children for basically tattling on him, spilling the beans on his whole preschool Diddy flight. I thought the acting in this one was a lot better than, with the exception of maybe New Nightmare. But in the end, this is almost a cookie cutter remake of Part 1. I felt like they could have done something different. They could have made it original somehow, like the Friday the 13th remake did. You had elements of all the past films, but it was a standalone movie. This was just a remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. The only thing different is it wasn't 1984, so in this movie, everybody has cell phones. It wasn't bad, it wasn't boring, but just the lack of originality, it's meh, or like it's between meh and pretty good. But again, I don't have that category, and I'm not gonna say it was pretty good. It's just meh because it's just a retelling of Nightmare on Elm Street. All right, guys, that is Nightmare on Elm Street ranking. Did I get it wrong? Comment below, and I await your hate. How would you rank these differently? Tell me why I'm wrong or right, if there's a couple of you that do agree with me out there. And leave a like on the video if you're still here. Don't forget to subscribe unless I just really aggravate you that much. And smash the dinghy. You remember what happens when you smash the dinghy? You'll be notified. You'll be notified of all the videos. So you can come back and post more hate comments, as I so richly deserve, probably. All right, that's going to do it for this video. We will be back next month with another tier ranking. What do you guys want to see me rank next? It could be movies, it could be potato chips. Comment below, give me some ideas. I'm all up for it. But for now, I will sign off and await your comments. Thanks for watching. See you later.